freaking early. But we got some cool looking fog coming up. And we got flashing lights. Yeah, we're driving into the fog up here. I had somebody yesterday ask me about the Appalachian Mountains, and that's exactly what this is coming up. Appalachian Mountains is a more or less north-south chain of mountains here in the States, and it has a somewhat tropical environment. The only reason I know this is because I've flown in this area in the past. You'll see this fog. It's very humid around here. Oh, it's just terrain is more interesting. Tower is cut off. Oh, I got one. Let you know what's going on. I just got back on the road. I am just showed about 160 miles short of Knoxville. It's going eastbound into the Appalachians. That's why it's getting foggy, because this terrain here is humid. So this is our foray into the Appalachian Mountains. My load was due tomorrow, and I got woken up out of a dead sleep at 6:30, and they said, "Oh, that's supposed to be there this morning." I said, "Well, that's not what you told me." So they had to call the customer and adjust the time, and now I'm doing the last sprint to get there. You know, when I said don't buy a blue used Ford Transit, that's what's in front of us right there. The blue ones were all owned by Amazon and have been beaten to death. Just look at an Amazon delivery. Start, stop, start, stop, start. So that van right in front of us, if you're getting into expediting, don't buy a used blue one because it has been hammered. We'll check out the fog here. The Appalachian Mountains are a humid tropical zone here in the eastern part of the United States. And when I used to fly over here, you had to take that into account. And I did run into some really weird weather and got stuck at a small airport. I was trying to get up over a ridge line into another valley to drop off the aircraft. It was the town, I remember now, it was Elizabethton, Kentucky or Tennessee, but Elizabethton was where I was trying to get to. And I couldn't do it because I couldn't get over the ridge line because of the fog. Mustang Medic. That's an interesting name from Arizona. Morning, morning. Yeah, I'm doing a run here. Australia, right on. Yeah, I'm doing a run. I took off, picked up my load that I have in the back here, south of Omaha, Nebraska, and I'm going to Morganton, North Carolina, and I did about 750 miles last night of a 1,000 mile run. And they said, yeah, it's not due till Friday. Well, I'm not going to wait around till Friday. I'm going to deliver it today. Yeah, check out the fog coming back in. And the load is so large in the back of my van, it takes up my bunk. It's folded up so I can't sleep in it. So I got a cheap chain hotel last night, and they woke me up at 6:30 local, and they went, "Oh my God, where are you?" Because they have tracking, and I said, "I'm sleeping." And they said, "Oh, you're supposed to be there this morning." He said, "That's not what you told me. You told me to get there tomorrow, and I'm going to be there midday today." They said, "Oh, no, no, that was supposed to be there this morning." But what the hell, you know? So I jumped out of bed, brushed my toofuses, jumped back in the van, and here we go. You know, it's about a little less than 300 miles to go. And they're like, well, we'll try to smooth this over. I'm like, okay, I'm just going by what you're telling me. So I'm going to be maybe have to stop to pee at some point, but this is direct from here. But we are currently eastbound on I-40 in Kentucky. I'm showing about 140 miles short of Knoxville. And because this is humid, this tropical climate of the Appalachians, that's why you're seeing this fog brewing up here at 7 o'clock in the morning local. You're from Arizona. Yeah, you don't have this problem in Arizona. But check this out. It's a lot worse looking out the window than it is looking at the phone. You say you're in Australia. Australia has a distinct accent, dialect, I guess. And I was listening to a girl from New Zealand, and when she started talking, you could cut her accent with a knife. It sounded wonderful, but you almost couldn't understand what she was saying. You notice the difference? They're from B-roll here, just subscribed. Oh, cool, thanks. Puerto Rico, right on, Adolf. I used to fly with a guy who lived down there. He worked helicopter. We were flying helicopters. He worked for 14 on, 14 off. He was a French guy, and he lived down there in Puerto Rico. We actually called him Frenchie. I don't even remember his real name. That's my only connection to Puerto Rico was him. Dungeons and Dragons, upcycling nerd. I'm a ferocious recycler for aluminum. I'm actually kind of somewhat fascinated with the material. You can recycle all kinds of metals only from when, where, what does it say? Where in Puerto Rico? Base Rennie. I don't know. I don't know where he lived. That was years ago. You can recycle all kinds of metals, but there's a limited number of times you can do it. Except for aluminum, you can recycle it over and over and over again indefinitely. Whereas steel changes its structure. That's why I think aluminum is fascinating. All right, fog is thickening back up. There is a place, I don't know if it's on this highway, but there's a place up here where the speed limit signs are digital and they change because there's a couple of valleys where the fog is so thick. At one point, the interstate highway is down to 25, and I've been through there, and it's like I'm looking at this going 25 miles an hour. What are you people ridiculous? What's wrong with you? And I got down to I think 17 because I couldn't see. you get ducks in a row and turn on your flashers for about a half a mile. We were in the teens trying to get through that was so thick. The old thing to give them a new story. Sort of we upcycle nerds. Take old things, give them. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Upcycle and recycle. That's cool to be able to use new spell stuff. Look at haircuts, for instance. Everybody thinks they came up with the latest haircut, and they laugh at old haircuts, and all they're doing is recycling old haircuts. That's because aluminum is an element in steel. Yeah, there you go. I didn't know that. I do know that they, back 30, 40 years ago, it took 20 cans to make a pound of aluminum, and now it's 28. They found out ways of thinning the aluminum down even more to make a can out of it. And like I said, uh, I pick up aluminum religiously, and I keep it crushed up in bags in here. And I either turn it in myself or at a rest area. They'll have recycle bins, and I'll just throw it in there. I'm not looking at this from a financial. I look at it from just doing the right thing. And the one year my wife and I kept records, we did 1,400 pounds. I-40 finished from the flood. I think they washed away, but that was Hendersonville. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it. Start mix up. Yeah, the flooding that was a while back, and being that the interstate is used for interstate commerce, I think they would have focused pretty hard on getting it open. They do road construction. You swear to God they're getting paid by the hour because they'll take years to do a a basic repair or expansion job, but when it stops the highway, the interstate is stopped completely. It it has a negative effect on interstate commerce. So they would go out here and get it open. It might not be beautiful, but it's functional. I haven't seen anything on my nav gear warning me about delays ahead, but I'm going to find out the hard way. I'm just going to keep moving. The flooding, that was again. I don't know if I'm going to see anything, but I have not heard anything. Starting serious about mental health awareness and suicide prevention. I need to shop to start making stuff. Uh, Mental health and suicide. I don't know if that has anything to do with expediting. You might be slightly off topic. Uh, Most people just ask about expediting and then ask about the terrain on here. I'm kind of new to live streaming. The rest area coming up. The fog is getting thicker as we go along here, which is weird because we're going east into the sun right now. Can you see it? Me neither. Headlights. Yeah, that's a lot brighter on the screen than it is looking out the window. Last I heard, there was one lane open. God, I hope so. Again, I'm chasing 40 east. I'm showing my next turn is in Asheville at 155 miles. I hope it stays open. It says, "Ooh, okay." Yeah, this is kind of lighthearted. People ask questions, tell jokes. I had a guy come in here yesterday, and his comment was, "What do you call a rich Chinese guy?" Cha-ching. I mean, just out of the blue. No, I don't drive a truck. I drive a van. This is called expediting. It's basically a box van. I'm doing the same job that a trucker does. It's just this version. Hey, Samantha, you're back. Yeah, this version is just way easier. You don't need a CDL. You just need a basic car driving license. And because my van is under 10,000 pounds, I don't have to go by DOT rules. I don't have hours of driving limitations. I don't keep logbooks. I don't go through way stations. I'm just kind of left alone. This is literally the same as driving your car. Go through the gap, and that's where there's only one. The gap. I haven't been over here in a while. How far up here is the gap, by the way? I don't. I haven't been on this road in I don't even know when last time I was over here. It seems like everything I do is north south. This is east west. So, like I said, this is just like driving a car. It's much easier. And another thing truckers have to deal with is they get stopped and inspected and just waste their time. And at the end of the day, you got to park. Well, where are you going to park your truck? Well, I appreciate you taking time to talk. Yeah, I'm going to school. Oh, cool. Samantha, going to school? Yeah, I've been on YouTube. I started a channel in 22, and it was expediting. And then I got out of this, and I went and worked for a company that was local. And then I got snatched up, and I went back into aviation, and I flew for another year until I got medically retired from flying. And I'm trying to get to 62, Tennessee, North Carolina. That's where I'm going. Going to bounce stay. Alrighty, reroll's going to bounce. I like that name, reroll. All right, take care. I'll be here for a while. Went back into aviation, and after a year, I got medically retired. I had to keep a class 1 flight physical, and the flight surgeon said no, so I don't do that anymore. I like these rocks here on the side. We cut and went through and put the highway. Yeah, I like this terrain. So now I'm back at this again. And I found streaming here, well, I don't know, about 2 months ago. And I just started streaming. It's a Dungeons and Dragons thing. Oh, okay. God, I remember Dungeons and Dragons. That's back in the 80s. Yeah, I started streaming, and I enjoy just talking to people. And a lot of people that tune in here are from overseas, and they like to see here yesterday from India, and he was fascinated with highways, just the nice flat wide open highways, and apparently that's not normal over there in India. And last night Yeah, I didn't touch my brakes or my cruise control for like 90 minutes. It was just wide open road. Yeah, I flew. I was a helicopter pilot, but I did it for 35 years, and I made it. I survived it. And there's a lot of people that don't. Not being morbid, but there's a lot of things that go wrong in a helicopter. So I'm good with it. I'm happy. Had my career. I enjoyed the experiences. I got to go different parts of the world. I got to have some hair raising adventures, and paid a whole lot better than this. But the point is, I'm on the ground and I feel a little more relaxed because when you drive down the road in your car, you're kind of driving on autopilot. You know, your body's driving the car and your brain is somewhere else. Well, when you're flying a helicopter, your mental turbocharger is spooled up to maximum because you're just waiting for something to go wrong. I mean, you are waiting for something to cause grief. The helicopter is so incredibly sensitive to its environment. And a lot of people don't realize this, but you can see the biggest helicopter in the world hovering, and you can walk up to it with your hand. A child could walk up to it with their hand and push, and the aircraft will move. There is literally nothing. Nope. Sorry. We're starting to do that reconnecting thing. It's starting to, those feeds breaking up because of the was saying in a helicopter, if somebody in the back seat leans forward and leans over, pulls their keys out of the pocket, I can feel it, and it makes you paranoid. If you have a tail rotor problem, you feel it in your feet. You have an engine problem, you feel it in your rear end, and if you have a rotor problem, you feel it in your hands, and your brain is constantly scanning the controls, the instruments, and your feelings to see if anything's wrong. And things do go wrong, so it's a stressful job. This I just set cruise control and go. Used to drive from Barstow to Charlotte every week on I-40. All right. Barstow, Vegas? You drove from Vegas to Charlotte? That's a that's a run. The longest, yeah, Barstow, Host, California. That's why Barstow, Vegas, my brain went to. Yeah, my longest drive, and I talk about this all the time, was Lower Manhattan Island to Redondo Beach, California. That's the Cannonball. And now when I did the Cannonball, I did it as a solo driver, which there's not a lot of people that are that stupid to even try that. Doing the Cannonball is probably one of the more ridiculous ideas I came up with, but I did it solo. I was supposed to do it with another guy, and the thing about cannonballing, you find out, is it's a guy thing. You know, women don't get into that cross country road racing. I mean, women have their own stupid things they do, you know, like read books and stuff. But I was supposed to do the run with another guy, and when it comes to cannonballing, you can get all kinds of guys to talk about it. But when it comes time to actually do cannonball stuff, suddenly they can't go, and their wife said no, and they get scared and they back out. So this guy backed out at the last second, and I had to reshuffle my cards, and I ended up doing a solo run because I didn't want to have the rug yanked out from under me again. But I'm glad I did it, and I got away with it. So we'll move on, and I've pretty much given up the high performance, high speed lifestyle. Now I'm doing this much more relaxing stuff. But it is fun to drive across the United States wide open in a car and get away with it. Actually, go from Montgomery, Rita, California to Charlotte, I-40. Wow, what, you were in the military or something? Working sevens, 7 on 7 off or something? That's a run. And one thing about the Cannonball I discovered, somebody says, how far can you drive in 24 hours? Uh, the Red Ball Garage on lower, oh, now it's getting thing. The Red Ball Garage on Lower Manhattan Island to Grand Junction, Colorado is the western slope, Colorado, and that is the Golden Gate gas station is 2,012 miles from the Red Ball in Manhattan, and I got there in 24 hours and 5 minutes. So you can technically drive 2,000 miles in 24 hours. Oh, you were driving a truck, dedicated run. Okay, that's the very, very rare dedicated run that everybody wants. That's cool for Doyle. For Dole, that's the fruit guys. Okay. Boris Lombardi. Wow, Lombardi. I've heard of it, but I've never seen anybody with Lombardi last time. That's cool. Yeah, dedicated run. Everybody wants a dedicated run. Here's something. My wife used to drive truck back in the 90s, and she's a fun to look at redhead, in her 20s out here driving around. You can imagine the trouble she ran into. She ran up and down the West Coast. Yeah, and if you said you used to run for Dole, right now my radio is on. Listen, there's the squelch. CB radios in the last few years have really, really died off. I run CB, but flash this guy. But the CB traffic has drizzled down to almost nothing, unless something happens. If there's a traffic accident or the lanes get pitched off or suddenly everybody stops, they'll light up like a Christmas tree. But generally speaking, the CB radios have gotten really quiet. And they used to be non-stop. You remember they used to be non-stop. Warehouses, Marina, California, Bessemer City, North Carolina. All right, so you guys, let's see, TBI, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation Police. We didn't know they had their own cars. Huh, just passed us. Yeah, have a dedicated run. That would be, because you know exactly where to stop to get fuel and, where the potty brakes are and everything. Yeah, that would be kind of nice. Expediting is a 24-hour thing. And you'll get a call, you'll be sleeping, you'll get a call at 1 in the morning, and they'll say, hey, go over to so-and-so. And they give you a pallet, sometimes two, usually one. And they say, just take it direct to wherever. And a lot of the stuff we do is in the automotive business. So it's car parts. Either they had a shortage or something got broken. That happens. Uh, they do the runs we do, the time, most of our deliveries are direct in a van. And they figure it out mathematically from start to finish. They average it you at 50 miles an hour, and they say, okay, this is what you need to get there. I did a run from a factory in Indiana here. It was a while back. It was a gigantic electric motor, and it weighed 2,300 pounds, and it was on this big heavy duty wooden pallet that was slowly breaking as I was going down the road. I could hear it back there cracking. And it was a secondhand motor, and I got it out of Indiana, and I went to Kansas, and they have a Campbell soup plant in Kansas.
Damn, dude, just get the right fucking lane, man.
And then I drove direct, and it was supposed to be there by like 11 o'clock or something in the morning. And I drove direct all the way across, set the cruise, had my audio books going, and I pulled in there at like 6:45 in the morning, and there was around the back where receiving is, and there were all kinds of maintenance vehicles, and it was real busy at that time of the day. And I walk in with my clipboard, and about 30 people stopped and turned and stared at me. I mean, like the conversation stopped. Now, I'm thinking, what have I got, two heads or something? So, okay, yeah, that's good to have a dedicated. That's cool. Like I was saying, I walked in, all these people looked at me, and I said, I have an electric motor. And it was like I pulled the fire alarm. Everybody got excited, and they all ran out. They're like, oh, great, awesome. And they got tractors and stuff, and they're pulling this motor out. And the guy said, this cannery has three giant electric motors that have been here for decades, and one of them gave out, and they never break. He said, we are losing, and this is the number that sticks in my head. He said, we're losing $30,000 an hour worth of production by the motor not being here. And the fact that I showed up almost 5 hours early saving that kind of money, that's what expediting is about, is they have something that there's a product or something they need, and they need it now. Whereas in normal trucking, you have a crate, a pallet or whatever, and you want it shipped across the United States. A hotshot driver will pick it up and deliver it to a warehouse, and it'll sit there for a day or two until there's enough items to fill up a big truck. And then they'll throw it on a big truck, and he'll drive his 11 hours at a time across the United States, drop it at a warehouse, and it'll sit there as long as it takes for the local hotshot driver to come pick it up and deliver it. So there's this huge delay. Expediting is we need it now. You pick it up and you directly to the person that's receiving it, and it doesn't get out of your van until it's in the hands of the receiving people. That's what expediting is. Remember back in 2000, 2001, there was a chip shortage for cars, the little computer chips. There's a place in Marshall, Indiana that makes computer chips, and it is a small business at the time running 24 hours a day and 3 shifts making these computer chips. Look like, and they're in little cellophane bags, and the bags are attached to each other, so there's like a string of them. And I got to walk around and watch their machines punch out these computer chips. And there was myself and 2 other Sprinter vans. And they were taking these chips off the little production line and putting them in cardboard boxes. And they were running them back and forth and putting them on pallets. And there was a guy that was printing out labels. They were like 4 inches square. And this label machine was printing like a minigun, lightning speed, printing out. Okay, I used to haul Western Star diesel engines from Detroit Diesel, house in South Detroit down to whoa, that's a drive. Yeah, I've done a lot of stuff, Toledo, back and forth Toledo, Detroit all night long. I've done it a couple times. But this label maker would spit out this string of labels, and they all shared the same back paper. So this guy's walking across the floor, dragging 30 feet of labels behind him, and taking them off and putting them on the boxes. And then they put all these boxes on a crate or on a pallet, and then the machine spins the pallet and wraps it in plastic and throws it, the one pallet in my van. It says, go. I took off, drove direct to the Dallas-Fort Worth area to a GM plant, and there were like 10, 12 trucks in line going through the gate. And when you're in a van, you don't get in line because you don't use I don't use the loading dock. I use a ramp. I can't back up to a dock. So I just drive by, and a guy comes out. He goes, do you have the chips on board? And I said, well, yeah. And he goes, ramp 1. So I go, okay, that's quick. And I drive over there, and usually you back up, and then you got to go find somebody, and they get a forklift. And, there's a delay. Well, I drove over there, turned the van around. Here comes the forklift. I'm like, well, that was quick. And I opened the back doors, and the guy said, this plant is 40 minutes from shutting down operations, waiting on chips. And the fact that I got there a couple hours early saved everybody from going home. So that's how sudden this business is. That's why people do this. You're talking about going Detroit, going down to Georgia. There's a plant the south side of Toledo. I don't even know what they make, but there's vans lined up in the parking lot, and they would give you a pallet load of whatever, and you run up to Detroit to one of those little plants and drop it, and then turn around and drive the 90 miles back. And then they'd give you another one. It's just the same people. They were making whatever that part was as fast as they could, and vans were hauling it to all these distributors and making them assembly plants. And we do it all night long. You just have your radio turned on, and just drive back and forth up and down the highway. That's crazy. I went to a Ford plant to drop off a pallet here a week ago, and the place was something along the lines of 8 square miles of plant. And I spent an amazing amount of time trying to figure out where I was supposed to be going. I mean, an incredible amount of time trying to figure out where I was supposed to be making my delivery. Asking people and get sent over here. And oh, no, not this receiving office, the one over here, and go talk to them. Yeah, that was annoying. Where'd my fog go? I was enjoying that. Yeah, last night when I was streaming, it was wonderful. I literally didn't touch my brakes or my cruise control for 90 minutes. Just wide open spaces, and these Ford Transits have these big bucket headlights. So you hit your high beams, and it like lights up the world. We're going to compete with this guy. Nope, I'm past him. Haha. Oof. Like I said, I would have slept in my van last night, but I can't. I don't have a bunk to sleep in right now with this pallet, with this whatever the heck this thing is in the back, some kind of electric components. I also did helicopter video shoots as a cam operator, strapped to the out side door. I don't know what kind of helicopter you guys use. Probably an A-Star. You know, Mr. Douglas. I've done some video shoots out of a helicopter in the Gulf. They were doing some kind of advertising for a offshore drilling ship, and they had us do some flybys. That was the one I did. Jet Ranger. That's barely a helicopter. Yeah, that's the problem. The Jet Ranger is the first. I've got about 6,000 hours flying Jet Rangers. Oh, there's a crowd of vehicles getting off the off ramp. Look at that, backed up. Yeah, though the Jet Ranger is the first generation turbine passenger helicopter. Technically, and I would have not guessed this, but technically, out for hours of operation, a Jet Ranger is the safest aircraft in the world. And I would not have guessed a helicopter would have been the one. And let's see if someone tries to jump over here. Jump. Here we go. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Ooh, you wanted to do it, didn't you? A Jet Ranger is the safest aircraft in the world. Again, I would not have put a helicopter in the safest aircraft category. The problem with a Jet Ranger today is when those aircraft were designed back in the 60s, everybody weighed 135 pounds. And that's not the world we live in. So today, a Jet Ranger, generally speaking, weighs about 2,000 pounds empty. Its gross weight is 3,200. So that gives you 1,200 pounds to play with payload. Okay, so you put 50 gallons in. There's 300 pounds, a little over 300 pounds of weight. So now you're down to 900 pounds. You put in a 200-pound pilot. Okay, now you're down to 700 pounds. So you got 700 pounds to play with. You start strapping bodies and bags. There, you see how the math doesn't work out? That's the problem with the Jet Ranger. So when I was flying out in the Gulf, I'm picking up dudes that are 350, 400 pounds a piece because they're corn fed. They work out in the Gulf, and then they have their 80-pound tool bags. So you see the problem? So Jet Rangers, a good airframe, but they're starting to get a little long in the tooth just because they weren't designed to carry your average person today. And they go 85 knots. That is the helicopter in 2018. Why is this person tailgating me? Dude, I'm in the right lane. Leave me alone. Oh, good call. Jump in front of that truck. Anyway, in 2018, the wife and I got to go. Is that you? Is that you? Windshield what? What do you mean? Is that you? Is this my windshield? Well, it's on my dashboard if that's what you're asking. In 2018, I got a call from a guy that I had worked for, and he said, "Hey, what are you doing this week?" And I said, "I'm hanging out." And he goes, "I need you to go recover a helicopter for me." And we worked the deal out. And out of Houston, the wife and I got on a plane in Houston, flew to Denver, got on a small jet, a little tiny jet. We flew to Cody, Wyoming, jumped out, paid, I think it was $135 for a taxi ride across Wyoming. It was a 160-mile taxi ride. And we ended up in a town called 10 Sleeps. Yeah, wrap your head around that one. It's up on the Wyoming-Idaho border. And it's a town. It doesn't even have a traffic light. It's got like a stop sign. It's a little teeny tiny town. We got to the one hotel, which was a mom and pop that had exactly 4 rooms. A good friend of mine who also shot helicopter video wasn't 2 weeks away. Helicopter crash was two walk away helicopter crashes. Let me get back to that in a second. That gives a little war story. We stayed in the one hotel that had exactly 4 rooms. And then a guy picked us up in a pickup truck and rode us down the road, a little ways down the road. And there was a jet ranger sitting in his barn. And what had happened is some guy had rented or leased the aircraft for some reason. And then he turned around and tried to use it as collateral for a loan. How do you use something you don't own as collateral? So it got repoed more or less. And it'd been up there for a while. And I, my wife and I got it and flew it home back to Texas, and that was a cross-country adventure at 85 knots in this underpowered little aircraft. But that was a fun thing the wife and I got to do together. I've got back to helicopters, 16,900 hours of actual flight time logged. And as far as crashes are concerned, in the list of emergency procedures, I've had everything in the book go wrong. But as far as forced landings, I've had exactly one, and that was out in the Gulf. We climbed up to, is it a Long Ranger, an L1 with that C-20 engine, that really bad engine that runs so hot they took the bleed band off and closed all the air holes on it. And we rode it, the engine quit on a beautiful sunny day, and we autoed down into the drink, got the floats blown, and the aircraft landed, sank into the water quite a bit, and then popped back out of the water, and they got it back upright. And the engine, the most dangerous time on a turbine engine is the first 100 hours after heavy overhaul. And it was the engine that gave out. And the company that overhauled it, which was Honeywell, they ended up paying for it. And when a helicopter does a forced landing, it is euphemistically called a sudden stop. So the aircraft had to be stripped to the bone and rebuilt. Honeywell paid for it, so we got a free helicopter out of the deal. Now you're mentioning you walked away from 2 crashes. There was during Katrina, our company had a jet ranger. Do you remember the 1987 movie Lethal Weapon? And there's a scene, Mel Gibson with his awesome mullet is at that guy's house, and a helicopter pops up behind him on a cliff, and a guy fires a sniper rifle and kills the guy. And then old Mel runs over and starts shooting at the helicopter as it flies away. That that aircraft in that scene, if you get a look at it later in the movie, the tail number was 230 Charlie Alpha. And it's, for some reason, it's under the door, painted on the passenger and the pilot door, which is improper, but you got to have a 1-foot letter. It's 230 Charlie Alpha. Our company ended up owning that helicopter later. And it was known within our company as Lethal Weapon. That just was the name of that aircraft. That helicopter took part in Katrina, and one of our pilots was flying it with some AP photographers on board. They took the doors off, front and rear, and they were going really slow, and they were circling over a house, and there were people getting off a house, getting on a life raft. And they were just taking pictures and video and whatnot. And I got to go over here. And a Black Hawk helicopter, again, that was crowded airspace. A Black Hawk helicopter slowed down and hover taxied more or less over them. And flying over top of a slow moving helicopter when you're throwing all that downwash down is kind of the same as having a power boat racing across the water and then having a big hand reach down and pull it up out of the water. The helicopter, the boat will stop moving when the propeller will speed up because the propeller's not pushing anything. Well, when he went over, he took his air. So the main rotor system was no longer producing lift, but the tail rotor worked. The aircraft did a free fall, did a couple of 360s, and went through a house. I've got some really cool pictures of it. The pilot, when the blade slapped the house, the pilot got a cut on the side of his head. He has a scar to this day. And the 2 photographer guys in the back were okay, but they had to get lifted out. The aircraft, they had to get a heavy lift helicopter to lift it out. I don't know if they ever rebuilt that bird or not. But one of the AP guys was laughing, and I'm like, "What?" He goes, "I've been in exactly 2 helicopters in my entire life. Would you like to guess how many helicopter crashes I've been in?" He says, just throw a number out there. I was like, "There's no way." And he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm 2 for 2." I said, I guess you're done with helicopters. He goes, yeah, I'm good. I'm gonna set these out from now on. That guy's just a magnet for bad stuff. Western Regional, amazing scenery. Gary Busey was the shooter in the Lethal Weapon scene. In that, Gary Busey and Lethal Weapon? You're mixing movies together. This was Mel Gibson with the cool mullet. Don't you remember when he picked up, I think no, Joe Pesci was like one of Joe Pesci's first movies when he's in the back and they're trying to, no, it was, what's that guy's name? The black guy that was with him in the movie. I can't remember the actor's name. My brain's spinning. But he was with the black guy. Remember he partnered up because he was like suicidal and nobody wanted to work with him. And they picked up Joe Pesci. Remember Joe Pesci was in the back? Yeah, oh, he's getting fucked at the drive-through window. Remember? He was in the back seat complaining about that. Gary Busey with Danny Glover. That's it. Gary Busey was not the shooter. No, that was. Wait a minute. That was Gary Busey. Holy crap! My brain's going to. You're right. It was Gary Busey. Holy crap, man! I'm freaking old. Yeah, but that was a helicopter. And there's also a scene where the helicopter's flying along and it's banging on the roof of a limousine, and the girl gets out, runs away, screaming, "Go! Oh, what? You know what? You can take a helicopter and bang on the roof of a car all day long. It's not going to stop the car." I don't. If you're ever driving along and a helicopter lands in front of you to stop you, just keep going. The helicopter is going to lose. Trust me. But wow, you're right. That was Gary Busey. Who am I thinking of? Who was the guy with played with Eddie Murphy in God, what movie was that? Uh, God, I'm getting old. Okay, back up with me. Point Break with Keanu Reeves, the guy he worked with. That actor, I can't remember his name. Anyway, yeah, Nick Nolte. Damn it, that's it. 48 hours to show off. Can't stand people that can remember stuff. It's not fair. Yeah, Nick Nolte. That's my brain was going to Nick Nolte for some reason. When you were saying Gary Busey, that's what I was seeing. I'm like, man, that guy wasn't in that. But yeah, that was that film. But that was the helicopter. Patrick Swayze. Jesus, you know all these movies. Old age is catching up quick here. Yeah, it's back in the good old days of movies. We had when I abruptly stopped flying, we had planned on buying a house in this town we were going to move to, and it was in the downtown area, a brick building. It was built in 1903, and somebody had bought a business, one of the businesses, and it was brick vaulted ceilings and turned into a house. It was a gigantic house. Some of my favorite films. That's why you're in those. And outside, we'd have owned a wall, a giant brick wall, and we were gonna put out a movie screen on the side of this wall and just go outside and show movies and go buy some secondhand couches that didn't match and put some couches out there and just show movies on, like we were going to do, like on Saturday night. And if anybody happened to walk up and sit down and watch them with us, they were more than invited to do so. That was kind of our plan. And we were going to probably do a lot of 80s films, just have an outside movie theater for no reason. And, we're not charging money. It's just if anybody wants to show up and sit down. So it wasn't a commercial thing. It was just to have fun. And we were sitting there making lists of films we wanted to show. And that was some of them that were coming to mind. Yeah, that didn't work out. Oh, well, old age and everything. Well, the wife and I are both 57. Our birthdays are 6 days apart. So for 6 days, I get to harass her about being an old woman. Now we're both 57. We're trying to get to 62. Yeah, we had all kinds of plans for that place. We were going to go, and then all of a sudden, the job went away that I was going for, and then my medical went away, like all in like a 1 week period. Sucked, but oh well. Anyway, I'm doing this. It's relaxing. It's my gas mileage. Rolling Hills, I'm at 20.3 miles per gallon for today, and I've gone 63 miles. I've got a 900-pound, it's some kind of an electric motor thing on a big heavy metal frame, and that guy is rolling onto the highway in slow motion. Here we go. Yeah, dude, what do you think I just moved over? This guy behind me is trying to figure out why I just slid over. Because of this guy. All right, I got to step on the throttle. Here we go. Yeah, the wife and I had all kinds of ideas, stuff we were going to use. Kind of sucked that didn't work out. Anyway, right now, my plan in life is to make it to 62, and we're going to retire, and we're going to expatriate. We're going to go somewhere. We got basically nothing holding us here. So I got to keep this van running for the next few years. Keep the lights on. It's not live streaming, but when you call somebody on their cell, you could hit the camera. And there's a lot of places I go to when I call the wife, and I'll bring the camera up to let her see what I'm looking at, and I kind of share it with her, and she enjoys that. I see a lot of weird stuff on here. And our family farm that goes back, God knows how far, is in Western New York. And here on the 22nd, I got to pick my wife up at the airport in Pittsburgh, and we're going out up there, and we're going to be there for like 5 days. I want her to experience the family farm because it's really relaxing. And I had stopped through there here a few weeks ago, just sitting around talking with my cousin, which he's 50. That was the first time he and I ever had a conversation as an adult, which was kind of cool because we were kids, we hung out. And I said my wife would enjoy this a lot, so I scheduled a trip, one plane ticket. If I'm in the van, I'll just drive the van over there, and I'll film the place. I'll show you what it looks like. It's a neat farm, and he's doing well. And he owns a slingshot, one of those three-wheel motorcycle things. And he also has a Mustang convertible in the barn, and I'm going to bum this convertible to take the wife and we'll drive around over there. But we're kind of excited about that. If anybody's interested, my uncle died in 23, and he left a 79 Thunderbird, maroon color, with the optional 351 engine in the barn. The sticker in the window expired in 1994. David and Dog. So if there's anybody looking for an old classic large Thunderbird with 70,000 miles on it, let me know. I said, you could sell this thing because it's just sitting there taking up space. So it literally hasn't moved out of the barn in 30 years. So it qualifies as a barn find. I-40 is a pretty bad disrepair in Arizona, east to Flagstaff. I have Cobra Stag. So, yeah, well, the Cannonball route, there's two routes the Cannonballers take. And the main route is I-40, which I didn't follow. I did 80 to western Nebraska, took 76 down into Denver, then you take 70 up over the Rockies into central Utah, you hit 15, and you shoot straight into California. You hit the 410 loop, and then you're caught in whatever's going on. No, but I'm looking for an unwanted dog. Well, those are easy to find. Dogs. I live in a townhouse. The wife and I share a townhouse, and we have two cats. And the difference between dogs and cats is dogs have owners and cats have staff. And our first cat is black, and we named it Lucy Bean. Lucy showed up in our backyard one day in our little courtyard and would see us looking out the window, and it would run. It was like a giant kitten, past the kitten stage, but not quite a cat. And we put food out there, and it would come by and eat the food. It was terrified of us, but eventually it would let us watch it out the window. And then if you open the door, it would run. And then you could open the door and it would start to run if you stepped out. And then it opened the door and it would let you come into the yard to a certain extent, and then it would run off. Well, one evening I'm out there in the dark. Sounds like doing team production, given all of what you described lots of times. That's cool. That was a nice car. Like I said, it was an optional engine you could get, a specialty, a 351, because I wasn't factory normal motor. But after 2 weeks of that cat being fed and being scared of us, I was sitting out there in the dark, and I'm talking on the phone on speaker. I got on the table, and I hear a cat meow, and I'm looking around. And that's something you find out real quick about black cats. They are invisible in the dark. So if you get up in the middle of the night to go take a pee, watch out, because you'll drop kick the cat because you can't see it. And I hear this meowing, and I'm looking around me, and I can hear it, but I can't see it. And finally, it comes up and bumps my leg, like, are you going to kill me, kind of. And I said, hey, wife, that cat's out here talking at us. And I opened the door, and the cat walked in our house, looked at my wife, went in the kitchen, walked upstairs, was gone for a couple of minutes, came back downstairs, walked over, climbed up on the couch, and curled up in a ball and went to sleep. And I said, I guess we have a cat. That was like 7 years ago. And now you can open the door and go, hey, cat, you want to leave? And the cat's like, yeah, I'm good. Your accommodations are adequate for my needs. And then about a year ago, another cat pulled the same thing. And this cat, we call it two, as in number two. This cat's a fluffy brown combo color, big fluffy cat, whereas Lucy's like tight haired, kind of more traditional. And same thing. It was in the backyard. We fed it, but after one feeding, the cat was like, "Hey, you're cool. You're cool." And it came in, and Lucy's like, "Who are you, and why are you in here?" Because the cat's used to being on its own. It took a while for them to get used to each other. Now they hang out and they fight, and they hang out and they wrestle, and they hang out, and they get along fine. 351 Triton. With God as my witness, this engine has a 351 Windsor motor, and I got in a big argument with somebody about that on here. And I went out and took a picture of the nameplate on the engine, the actual data plate, and it was a Windsor motor, which is weird because that is not what normally claimed with that car. And I don't know what, there's a Windsor into Cleveland. This one's a Windsor, and I literally took a photograph of it. But if there's someone looking for a car, it's all there. It's a solid car. For reasons I don't understand, the rear bumper was taken off and it's sitting there on the ground. Don't know why. He was doing something, but it's maroon. It's got that light tan interior, and it's got 73,000 miles on it. I don't have a clue why he parked it. Not a clue. But I'll take some pictures. Oh, another top. When I get there, I'll take pictures of it. I have to go over here. Hold on. Yeah, Ford products. People are love hate with Ford products. There's all Ford, Chevy, GMC, Dodge, whatever. I'm not real picky about that, but I do like Ford products. I've owned a fleet of them. I've owned all kinds of stuff, and I'm happy with this van. But everybody's got their thing. I've owned, as a personal vehicle, I've owned one full-size truck. It was an F-150. I've owned a fleet of Ford Rangers over the years, back in the day. It's a fancy house. Uh, Currently, my household vehicles consist of this van. My wife we bought a brand new 2014 Kia Soul we've had. The only thing that's gone wrong on it in 11 years is the gas gauge started getting a little wonky on us, so I had to replace the wiring. But the wiring and the fuel pump are together. It's not separate. I had to replace. Other than that, a car has to get. Still looks new too, which is cool. My dad had a Mercury Coupe with a 351 fast car. Yeah, for the era. The problem with 70s cars is they were fighting the new emission stuff. The technology kind of restricted their power somewhat. They couldn't until it took them about 10 years to really get the full power out of them. The Corvettes, I can tell you this, a 72 Corvette had something like 450 horsepower, and the 73 had 205. That's how bad the transition from 72 to 73 was. If you're looking for a guy that I work for on and off, a friend of mine runs a shop that builds muscle cars and show cars. And if anybody's looking for a car to be built, if you have a barn find, he's the guy to go to. It's in Montgomery, Texas. It's called American Muscle. It's got a nice shop kind of hidden in the woods. And when we were working with him, they used to go to Autorama car shows, and the vehicles he makes win award after award after award after award. The guy is a master craftsman. And the what people some people want their cars restored to original, and there's a category of car called a concours vehicle. And concours means this is what this vehicle looked like the day it rolled off the assembly line. And the one example I can give you is a guy came in there with a 67 Corvette Stingray convertible. And he did a concours job on it, which means it had a Philco battery. It had a 9 millimeter bolt holding this wire attached. It had that really ugly lacquer paint, and he could do lacquer paint even though nobody does that anymore because that's what the car came with. It had the chalk marks on the frame from the assembly back in 1967. The problem with the cars built in the 60s is they're fun to look at, but from a mechanical standpoint, they're kind of primitive. For instance, you have hydraulic brakes and hydraulic steering and hydraulic power in your vehicle today. Back then, it was pneumatic. It was air pressure, vacuum pump, kind of. And you could have power steering or you could have brakes. You couldn't have both. So a lot of people do what's called pro touring, which means they'll take an old barn find, they'll pull it apart and they'll rebuild it, but they'll put in some modern equipment underneath. You'll have hydraulics, you'll have coil-over suspension, you'll have fuel injection, electronic ignition. It makes the car more reliable and more drivable, and that's a real common thing now. So it's pro touring. And there was one of his customers was a guy that had money. I guess he had money gushing out his ears, and he had a handful of beautiful cars come through. And his wife in high school had a '95 Ford pickup with a step side truck, which is whatever, it's a truck for the era. You don't see them on the road; they're worn out and gone. There's nothing collectible about a '95 Ford pickup, but his wife had nostalgia for one, so he bought it. And he said, he gave us the body, the cab and the body. And the guy said, can you give it a show car paint job, factory colors, which was maroon at the time? He said, okay. And did the body work on it, which is hammer it out, straighten it out, and smooth it out. And then you prime this is what cracks me up. A show car paint on a non-show car is shocking. Absolutely shocking. So we did the body work. Then normally when you paint just a regular car is you prime it and you paint it and it's beautiful. A show car, you prime it and then you wet sand it. You're sandpapering and putting water on it. And if you bend down and look at the the primer, it looks like a golf ball. There's little divots, and the divots are shiny. Well, you keep sanding it until the divots go away. So now the primer is perfectly smooth. And then they paint it with a high quality paint, and it looks absolutely phenomenal. And then they get out the sandpaper and they sand the paint job, and you're going, what are you doing? He goes, you're making it smooth. So they literally sand the triple coat paint. And then when you're done, you clean it off. There's no divots in the paint. And then you polish that layer of paint. And then when you're done, the paint looks 3 feet deep. I mean, you're standing back looking at your reflection, and you move to the side, and you can literally see a person standing 100 yards behind you in the reflection. It's absolutely stunning, a show car paint job. So he took this totally nondescript 95 Ford pickup and put a show car paint job on it, factory colors. And then I don't remember who put the car together, but they brought the truck by, drove it up, and he says, "You have no idea what kind of stares we get driving this thing at a traffic light." So people glance over, they look down the road, they glance over, and then look at this, glance, start staring, and then they'll elbow the person next to them and go, "Look at this thing. Look at the paint. Wow, Ford's really putting out a nice paint job." No, no, they're not. They're not putting out a paint job like that. But they says, this guy's got all these classic cars that are beautiful, and he goes, "That stupid truck gets more attention because it's so odd to have just a regular 30-year-old truck with this insanely gorgeous paint job on it." But I got a kick out of that one. So if you have a car, a show car or a classic car, you need anything, I'll do it mechanical or paint or body or modifications. All right, Douglas, do your thing, mister. I'm just driving along here babbling. If you need anything done to a classic car, a rebuild, a paint, mechanical, pro touring, it's called American Muscle, and it's in Montgomery, Texas. You can look him up. He's the owner's a guy named Eric, or we all call him Uncle Eric, even though we're the same age. He knows his stuff. He's a master craftsman. And while I was hanging out there working with him, working for him, you run into a problem, something that's not working right. I'm looking at this going, "Oh, we're never going to overcome this." And he just goes, bing, bang, boom, and it's fixed. And I go, "Oh, okay. Well, I guess that problem solved." It's interesting. So he knows what he's doing. He's got another guy working there that's more of the mechanical guy, and he is phenomenal with tools and equipment knowledge. They had a guy come in there, and they're still playing with it right now. It's a 1970 CUDA. If you remember those, they had a 340 engine. And this guy walked in there and says, "I want this he wanted a very specific setup in the car. And like right now the car's sitting there waiting on something, but he wanted a Hellcat motor. Remember the Hellcats? And they only made those for a certain amount of time, and then they stopped. And they said, "We need a Hellcat engine." And he's got connections to buy parts and things and equipment. And Uncle Eric, started looking for a brand new Hellcat motor, and he hit all of his suppliers, and they hit all their suppliers, and they went on a nationwide search. And when the dust cleared, they got the last Hellcat motor off the production line. Period. $47,000. The last one ever made. They got it. Last serial numbered engine. Oh crap, that was close. 800, 900 horsepower, supercharged, whatever motor. Like, woo. Yeah, that was close. Beautiful. And they got it in the car, but they're not working on the car right now. I'm not 100% sure why, though. Well, all my fog went away, which was helping with the light. Sun. Ooh, what are we doing here? 21.3 miles per gallon. So my mileage is creeping up because we're back on the flatlands here. That does. Universal Uno. You're back like a bad rash in the middle of summer. That's cool. I don't know if you can see it, but it looks like the highway underneath me is freshly paved. It looks new right here. Oh, we are in Kentucky, I think. Tennessee, Kentucky. I think we're in Kentucky. No. Yes, no. I don't know where I am. I'm on the road somewhere. And I'm still en route to Morganton, North Carolina. I am on I-40 eastbound. I'm maybe 90 miles. I think I'm coming up on Knoxville here eventually. And my load, for anybody coming in late, my load was given to me yesterday to be delivered tomorrow. And I was going to go all the way there last night and just, well, that didn't work. sleep in their parking lot, but I can't sleep in my van because I don't have a bunk because my bunk is folded up to carry this massive whatever this thing is. And I didn't want to, I'm getting old. I don't want to, fake it. So I said, I'll get a cheap hotel room, and I did. And they called me at 6:20 in the morning and said, "Hey, that's supposed to be there at 8 o'clock this morning." And I said, "Hey, that's not what you told me yesterday. It's supposed to be there tomorrow, and I'm going to get it there today." And they're like, "Oh, no, no, it's supposed to be." I said, "Well, you got to have to tell me these things." So they had to call the customer and move that around because I'm literally bringing it a day earlier than they wanted it. Or I was supposed to get it there by. But that wasn't the information I was given. And if you're out here expediting, it is to your advantage, and there are exceptions, but it is to your advantage to get there early because you get the load off and you get back on the board for another pickup. And today is Thursday, and I want to get a load, hopefully a weekend run, because if you don't pick up a load on Friday, chances of you getting a load on a Saturday are borderline non-existent. And it's just you're stuck. And an example of a load I will probably get today or tomorrow up here would be like a deliver on Monday in Wisconsin. So you'll have 3 days to mosey up there. And the advantage of having a 3 day weekend run is I get to mosey along, and when I see museums, I'll start Googling museums. I'll pull in like an outdoor aviation museum or something. I like to go run around in those, and I like to film. And in the past, I would take videos and post it. If it's an outdoor museum, I'll probably live stream it. Whoop, I'm live. I'm back. Yeah, my feed's coming and going here. So that's the plan for getting up here and being back on the board by midday today. I'm hoping I can get back on the board. All right, listen, I'm coming up on a rest area. We've been going here for a little over an hour, and I'm going to bail off. And if the terrain gets interesting and or the fog, there's the fog coming back. I may come back on again. But let me show you this rest area real quick. Well, there's a lot of vehicles up there with flashing lights. Okay, slow down, you monster. Gotta reel in the horsepower here. This is a trucks, trailers, cars only. Oh, they just split the road. Well, go up here. Wow, those trucks are cutting holes in the asphalt. Holy crap. Wow. Every state has these rest areas that look like this. And some people take good care of them and some people don't. I tell you what, I'm going to let this run for a minute. Let me jump out. I got to refill my bottles and whatnot, and I will be back in a few minutes. But stand by to stand by. Ow, ow, old age. I'm back. Sorry. Oh, oh, ow. All right. Back in the hoopty. Hold on a sec here. Sorry, I can't hear the rumble over the manifold, the high performance exhaust. All right, this is the Cumberland Rest area, and I am in, where am I? Tennessee. I confirmed it. And something I'm having a flashback with is when I flew it up at the Grand Canyon, when I was flying tours up there, you see people, about 75-80% of the people up there from overseas. And you can tell, you learn to tell where people are from based on how they dress, because the dress codes in different countries, different cultures is weird compared to what we're used to. And the people from Southeast Asia would wear two contradictory patterned clothes, a top and a bottom, had nothing to do with each other, which isn't how we do it here. And people from Europe would wear what could be described as dress shoes with knee socks and a pair of Nike shorts down to their knees and then like a dress shirt untucked. And you're like, dude, come on, stop it. You can't put that stuff together. So now we're getting back out here on the road. And according to the map that was on the wall, we are more or less centered between Nashville and Knoxville, slightly closer to the Knoxville part of it. And they're saying the Appalachians don't start till we get up here. All right. Supercharger engaged. Now, I don't know what's going to go on with my reception because it's been cutting in and out a little bit. And the further into these mountains we get, it may start cutting out some more. So let's see what happens here. I didn't shut this down because I was looking at the fog here in the distance. Like I kind of like traveling with the fog. The temperature is actually going down right now outside. It was 79 degrees about 10 minutes ago. Now it's showing 73. So I guess we're climbing a little bit at this point. That vehicle that just cut in front of us there, that's the Dodge ProMaster. If you're going to get into expediting, you look at those, make sure you drive it and see if you fit in the driver's seat because it's weird. I was talking about that yesterday. The steering wheel in my Transit is like a car. The steering wheel and the steering column in that van is more like a bus. The steering column is kind of between your legs going down instead of forward. It's a little weird. The seating position can be odd depending on how you're built. And when you start the engine, pop the hood and listen to it. If it sounds like a typewriter, you don't want it. They have a whole line of those. The Penske or Penske engine. They can call it the Penske typewriter, and it's the mechanics of it. It's tearing up the lifters and it's shredding it. And it's a mechanical problem. It sounds like a typewriter going tick 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 tick, tick underneath. A little range there in the distance. It's just showing me getting there in like 4 hours. I got 21.4 miles per gallon right now with my 900-pound payload. Over. So one of the guys who was on here earlier said that somewhere further out of the distance, the interstate is pitched down into one lane. I don't know. He said it was in quote the gap, but I don't know where the gap is. So we're gonna find out the hard way. Okay, are you passing or not? All right, I gotta lay on the throttle here. Here we go. Supercharger engaged. By the way, these Ford Transit vans actually have a shockingly powerful engine. If you start laying on this thing, it's turbocharged. It'll shit and get. It's like 310 horsepower. good on the torque too. So if you really need to go, all right. And now off cruise control and out of gear. Right now, I'm actually coasting up to this. Nope, back in gear. This isn't the single length thing he was talking about. The highway's actually pitched off of concrete walls and everything. Really, you pitched it off of that. Definitely no difference. I run an app on my phone called Fetch, as in throwing a stick to your dog. And if you put that on your phone, it will give you, you take photographs of receipts and it gives you points based on what's on the receipt. And what they're trying, how they make money off it is they're trying to convince you that, hey, it'll give you lists. It'll say, hey, if you buy this product over here, we'll give you more points. And once you accumulate enough points, you turn into actual money. So I do that going down the road because I have access to receipts. I buy junk all the time, you know, just regular receipts. And the two limits you have is you can't do more than 35 receipts in a 7-week period, and the receipts can't be more than 14 days old, I think. And as I'm going along, I save all my receipts for taxes purposes. And as I'm going along, I build them up, and then I cash out. It's usually $10 at a time, and it automatically puts it on Amazon. And it's just free money. And I've been doing it now for a couple of years, and I've made about $200 off it. So it's just kind of a habit at this point. And a little side note, it says receipts. It doesn't say whose. And yes, people leave receipts on their shopping carts. And the best receipts you'll find are Walmart's. And you can get thousands of points off Walmart receipts, especially ones that aren't yours. So just keep that in mind. Fetch, like I said, like throwing a stick to your dog. And they don't ask for all your personal information and blah, blah, blah. They just, hey, buddy, if you buy this product, we'll give you more points. Hey, Scott, are we back expediting? Sean, hey, Sean, yes. Wow. I haven't seen you in a while. Hey, I'm getting up into the mountains. I'm in Tennessee right now, and I'm driving through the mountains, so this feed may disappear. Yes, yeah, Sean. I went back to. I got out of the poop truck business. I went back to flying for a year, and I kind of got medically retired. So I'm back expediting at this point. This is my new thing till I get to retirement age. I can't fly anymore, so I did 35 years, and now I'm done flying, and I've got a few years to go to get to 62. So yeah, I'm back doing this again. This time I got my own van though. I was sharing the business with a guy before, and this time I actually sold my car and bought this van, paid cash for it, so I don't my expenses are way lower. But yeah, I'm back doing this again, but I'm on my own, and it's working a little better this time. It's a little more profitable, and it's a little more profitable, and I've learned, learned the ins and outs of the business. So this is working really well. But yes, that's funny. I was actually talking about cannonballing earlier today. That's funny. But yeah, I'm back at it again, and I discovered streaming here just recently, and I'm enjoying it. It makes the time go by, and you get to talk to people, and you, for instance. Anything new going on in your life, by the way? And I was talking to somebody yesterday. I don't think I used your name, but I was talking about something you posted. Uh, those signs on the side of the road that say these are the gas stations, these are the hotels. You posted a picture of a sign that said attractions, and it was in Ohio, and it was blank. And you said this pretty much sums it up. Sorry, there's nothing here. It's Ohio. But watch out. This this feed may drop off. Keep going through the hills here. Yeah, that came into my mind for a while. But yeah, like I said, I went back to flying. I was flying medical helicopters, and then I was getting ready to make a move. And when you're flying medical, they give you a class 1 flight physical versus a class 2, and they saw your heart does this, and there was one little hit. They did that, and they said, nope, nope, can't fly anymore. Yeah, that's how they do it. And it happened. I'm now 57, and it happens to a lot of guys in their 50s. They see one little blurb on your EKG, and they say, "Now you're out." So I'm out. It happens, but I survived, so I'm happy. I'm still alive. It's a road sign, and I'm on 40 right now. I'm eastbound. I'm between Nashville and Knoxville, closer to Knoxville at this point, and I'm making a load here about 1 o'clock to a town called Morganton. I've got a 900-pound something here in the back, uh, some kind of electrical doohickey, and then we'll see what happens from there. Anything exciting? I keep watching Switchcast. I keep an eye on Doug, see what he's doing. He seems to be having fun. You doing okay, by the way? Slow. By the way, I told you I have a different van. This is the Transit uh, medium roof, long wheelbase. I used to have the big one, and the big one got 16, 17 miles per gallon. And right now I'm getting 21 out of this one here in the mountains. Sounds good. Glad to hear it. Give you a call later to catch up more. Understood. Believe me, I understand. Yeah, give me a call. You still have my number. Yeah, I'm here. I don't Facebook. I don't pay attention to the page, to the Cannonball page anymore. I just not there anymore. But yeah, I'm out here living the dream. The wife and I are both doing well. And like I said, we're at that point in life where we like to travel. And we went on we went on a train trip from Chicago to Seattle for no other reason to go on a train trip and get to have a sleeper car. And now I'm meeting her here 9 days from now. I'm meeting her in New York. We're going to be traveling around the family farm and doing some tours. So we're just goofing off and enjoying life. But yeah, give me a call when you get a chance. That's just funny. I was literally talking Cannonball this morning, and I mentioned you yesterday on here. That that's weird. All right, do your thing, man. Give me a call. I'll be around. Truck parking. Where'd my fog go? Well, it's all sunny and stuff. One thing about the expediting. Got it. Thank you, sir. Take care. One of the interesting things about this job is you got to pay attention to is you start jumping time zones, and they tell you drop it off at this time, and you jump 2 time zones over, and what you're reading and what they're saying don't match. That's happened a couple times, so you have to really double check your paperwork sometimes. And I have a citizen watch, a dial face watch, so it doesn't like electronically change itself like your phone does. So I have to keep comparing notes to make sure I'm in the right place at the right time. Hmm. Okay, I still got some people on here. Where are people tuning in from? What part of the world? I had Australia, New Zealand, Indonesia, Berlin, UK, had Arizona earlier today, Florida, a couple different places. I like to see where people are from. And Sean, he's Ohio, but he'll never admit that. But so where are people from that are on here? And if you're just joining in, we're expediting. This is truck driving in a van. Yes. The easier version. Instead of carrying a big truck and a huge trailer, I'm driving a box van and I carry 1 or 2 pallets at a time. And it's considered expediting because it's basically something they need right now. So you pick it up at the supply point and deliver it directly to the end user, bypassing all the network in between. And these vans are everywhere on the road, but they're invisible. They're light cargo vans, and they're all around you on the interstate. They're all around you on the highway, but you just don't notice them because they're so generic. If you ever come out here and start doing this job, you'll notice that they're everywhere. And I've been passed by, and if you see a generic white box van going down the road that's not marked in any way, check out the license plate. You know, if you're in Ohio and it has a Florida license plate, it's probably an Expediter. There's no reason for that vehicle to be there. Ooh, roadkill. Kill. Yeah, that's one of the fears of this job is roadkill, especially at night when you can't see very far. You know, I set my cruise in this thing on 62 is my speed. That's the sweet spot for fuel. And I just leave it there at all times. So I have a little more of an option to stop. And these Ford Transits have really big headlight buckets, like really big. And when I'm out here by myself and I run high beam, I can see halfway across the United States. But it, see what this guy does. I'm in the climb lane over here just to keep out everybody's way, and I got a truck coming up on. Well, now he's backing off. All right, never mind. It's this thing start losing my feed here. Oh, jeez, this guy's coming over. I'm coming over. Well, never mind. Back in this lane. All right. I tell you what, we're into the no commo zone, so I'm going to cut this off and come back hopefully later today when I get into the mountains, see what's happening. But yeah, I'm losing reception up here. I'll catch up with you guys later.